Last night, you dreamed in words. Someone spoke to you. You read a sign. A voice narrated the whole strange story while you slept. But what if I told you that voice is a lie? A recent addition. A thin translation layer painted over something far older and far stranger. Because for almost the entire history of your species, nobody dreamed in language at all. So what were they dreaming about? What flickered behind the eyes of a human being 100,000 years ago in a mind that had no words? Stay with me, because the answer changes how you understand your own mind. And it is hiding inside you every single night. Language is young, painfully young, fully modern speech, the kind with grammar and abstract words, and the little voice reading these words inside your head right now is probably less than 100,000 years old. Some researchers argue it is even younger. But dreaming is ancient. Dreaming is older than humans. It is older than primates. Every mammal you have ever met almost certainly dreams. So think about what that means. For millions of years, your ancestors closed their eyes at night and their minds lit up with vivid, emotional, urgent experiences. And not one of those experiences contained a single word. What did those dreams look like? To answer that, you first have to understand what a dream actually is, not a message, not a prophecy. A dream is your brain running a simulation while your body lies still. But a simulation of what? And why would evolution build such a thing? Hold on to that question, because it leads somewhere disturbing. The neuroscientist Antti Revonsuo gave this idea its clearest form. He called it the threat simulation theory. His argument is simple and a little terrifying. Dreams evolved as a rehearsal. Every night, your ancient brain would generate dangers, predators, chases, falls, social threats, and force you to practice responding to them. Safely in the dark, while the saber-tooth was only in your head, and the data backs him up more than you would expect. When researchers catalog the emotional content of ordinary dreams, guess which emotion wins? Not joy, not love, fear. Fear is the single most common emotion in human dreams, and being chased is one of the most universal dream experiences on Earth, reported across completely different cultures that never touched each other. Ask yourself something. When was the last time you dreamed you were running from something? Now ask why your brain, given the entire canvas of sleep, keeps returning to that exact scene. Your ancestors were not dreaming about their taxes. They were dreaming about being hunted. Picture one of them, a woman maybe 30,000 years ago, curled near the embers of a fire. Her body is limp. Her eyes are darting back and forth beneath her lids. And inside her skull, she is running. She sees the shape in the grass. She feels her legs pump. Her heart rate climbs even though she has not moved an inch. She is training. And when she wakes, some part of her is faster, sharper, more ready than the version of her that fell asleep. That is a dream without a single word in it. Pure image, pure motion, pure fear. Now, here is where it gets stranger, because if dreams are older than language, then the dreaming brain must be built out of parts that were never designed to talk. And what happens to your language when you dream? You are about to find out, and it is the opposite of what you would guess. During the dreaming phase, the phase called REM, your brain does something remarkable. The regions that handle vision, emotion, and movement blaze with activity. The amygdala, your fear center, becomes intensely active. The visual cortex fires as if you were actually seeing. But the parts of your brain responsible for language and logic, the prefrontal regions right behind your forehead, go quiet. They power down. Read that again. When you dream, the language centers of your brain are among the least active parts of the whole system. So if your language center is switched off, then who exactly is speaking in your dreams? The neuroscientist Alan Hobson spent his life mapping this. He described the dreaming brain as emotional, visual, and hyper-associative, running wild without the supervisor that normally keeps your thoughts in line. Dreaming, in his view, is what your brain does when the storyteller goes to sleep, but the image maker stays awake. So the words you think you dream in, they are a thin coat of paint, a translation your waking mind smears over the top the moment you open your eyes. The dream itself, the raw thing, was built long before your species could speak. And this explains something you have felt your entire life without ever questioning it. Why is a dream so impossible to describe? You wake up with a flood of feeling and image, and you reach for words, and the words never fit. You say it was like, and sort of, and I can't really explain it. You have said those exact words. Everyone has. But have you ever asked why? That failure is not a flaw in your memory. It is a clue. You are trying to translate an experience from a language that has no words because it was built before words existed. Let that sink in. Every night you visit the oldest part of your own mind, a place that predates your ability to name anything. But here is the question that should be bothering you by now. If dreaming is this old and this strange and this risky, why did evolution keep it? Because, make no mistake, dreaming is dangerous. When you are in REM sleep, you are almost completely paralyzed. Which is a good thing because it stops you from physically acting out the chase. But paralyzed also means defenseless. For hours every night, your ancestors lay motionless and vulnerable in a world full of things that wanted to eat them. Evolution does not tolerate that kind of risk unless the payoff is enormous. So what was the payoff? What could possibly be worth lying helpless in the dark for hours, night after night for millions of years? The answer is learning, and it is deeper than survival rehearsal. The researcher Matthew Walker, who studies sleep at Berkeley, has shown that REM sleep is when the brain does some of its deepest emotional processing. It takes the raw, painful, frightening experiences of the day and replays them, stripping away some of the sharp emotional sting while keeping the lesson. You wake up remembering that the fire was dangerous without being paralyzed with panic every time you see a flame. Think about how strange and how perfect that is. The dream is not just showing you the threat, it is filing it away. It is turning a moment of raw panic into a quiet piece of knowledge you can carry for the rest of your life. Terror goes in, wisdom comes out, and it all happens while you lie still with your eyes closed. So the dream was never just a rehearsal for danger, it was also a way of digesting it. Your ancestors survived a brutal world not only because they were awake and clever, but because at night their brains kept working, sorting terror into understanding. And they did all of this without narration, without an inner voice, just image and feeling, looping through the dark. Now here is a thought that might unsettle you. If wordless creatures can dream, then dreaming should not be unique to humans at all. So do animals dream? And if they do, what could that possibly tell you about yourself? Studies at MIT tracked the brains of rats as they ran through a maze during the day. Then, while the rats slept, the researchers watched the same patterns of brain activity fire again, in the same order as if the rat were running the maze once more in its sleep. The rat was rehearsing, learning, dreaming a path it had walked while awake. That rat has no language. It will never have language, and yet it dreams in the same ancient currency your ancestors did. Movement, space, fear, reward. You are not separate from that. You are the same machinery wearing a newer coat. And it goes further than rats. Watch a sleeping dog and you will see it. The paws twitch, the muscles jump. Sometimes a muffled bark escapes, a chase happening entirely inside its skull. Birds that learn songs during the day have been shown to fire the same song patterns in their brains while they sleep, as if quietly practicing in silence. Across the whole tree of life, wherever there are brains complex enough to learn, there seem to be dreams. Wordless, ancient, everywhere. So let that reframe something for you. Dreaming is not a human invention. It is not something clever that arrived with civilization. It is a deep, shared inheritance, older than your face, older than your hands, older than the whole idea of being human. You did not invent the dream. You were handed it. But now comes the twist, the part that should genuinely stop you cold. Because when language finally arrived, what do you think it did to the old dreaming brain? It did not replace it. It layered on top of it. That quiet prefrontal cortex, the one that goes dark when you dream, is the newest part of you in evolutionary terms. The image and fear engine underneath is the ancient part. And that ancient part still runs the show every single night, whether you speak 5 languages or none at all, which means language did not teach you to dream. And here is the possibility that flips everything you assumed. It may be the other way around. Dreaming may have taught your species how to think in the first place. Consider what a dream really is at its core. It is your brain building a world that is not there, a predator that does not exist in the room, a cliff edge that is only in your mind. To dream is to simulate, to run a scenario that has no physical reality, and to feel it as though it were real. That is imagination. That is the single most powerful trick the human mind ever learned. And what if it was born in sleep? Long before anyone could describe a lion, their brains could conjure one in the dark. Long before anyone could say the word danger, their minds could rehearse it. Long before your ancestors could plan a hunt out loud around a fire, some part of them had already practiced running scenarios that were not real. The ability to picture what is not in front of you, to leave the present moment and move through a world that exists only in your head, may have switched on in the dreaming brain first, and only later been borrowed by waking thought. So think about what that means for you right now. Every plan you have ever made, every future you have ever imagined, every what if that has kept you awake at 2 in the morning. All of it may be the daytime descendant of a survival tool that first flickered on in the dark, inside a mind that could not yet speak a single word. So the next time you wake from a dream and struggle to put it into words, do not be frustrated. You are standing at a border. On one side is the new mind, the talking mind, the one reading these words right now. On the other side is a mind millions of years old, one that thinks in chases and falls and faces and fire. You cross that border every night, and you never remember the passage. So let me leave you with the question I have been circling this whole time. Think about the people who lived before language. Were their inner lives empty? Silent? Dim? That is the mistake almost everyone makes. Their nights were not blank voids. They were full of vivid, urgent, wordless stories, the very same stories that flicker behind your eyelids now. They ran from things in the dark. They fell and jolted awake. They saw the faces of people they loved and people they feared. They practiced surviving. They digested their terror. They imagined what was not there. And they woke each morning a little sharper, a little wiser, and completely unable to say why. You still do the exact same thing. Nothing about that ancient machinery has switched off. You just wake up and reach for words that were never built to hold it, and you call the leftover fragments a dream. There is something almost humbling in that. For all your language, all your logic, all the endless narration running through your waking hours, the moment you fall asleep, you return to the oldest way of thinking there is. You put the words down. You go back to pure image, pure motion, pure feeling. You become, for a few hours, the same kind of mind your ancestors were 100,000 years ago. And then you wake and the words rush back in and the border closes and you forget you were ever on the other side. Last night, you thought you dreamed in words, but underneath the words, in the oldest room of your mind, something far more ancient was running in the dark. It has been running there since long before your species could speak, since long before there were humans at all. And tonight, when you close your eyes, ask yourself one last thing. Who is really dreaming? The you that speaks, or the far older mind underneath, the one that has never needed a single word at all?